everybody, and welcome back for lesson 2 of character traits and finishing the book 3 Hens and a Peacock. So in the previous lesson, you were identifying the characters, and we started to discuss, we went over what are traits, how do we describe characters. We went over common adjectives or traits that we use to describe characters on our anchor chart that's behind me. We also wrote the characters in the chart already for the story. So we have the peacock, hens, and the hound. So today we are going to work on identifying a character trait or two that describes that character. And then we're also going to give evidence of what told us in the story that that trait described that character. So in the lesson before, I kind of talked about pigeon from, don't let the pigeon drive the bus, and the cookie, and all the different pigeon books there are. Because he kind of has the same traits in all those, which would be he's silly because he acts silly when he flaps his wings everywhere, and just the things that he says are very silly, his dialogue. And then we also said that maybe he is angry is another trait that pigeon has, and he's angry because he doesn't get what he wants. He's not letting him drive the bus, and then he has a huge temper tantrum everywhere, and you can see that in the pictures and in what the pigeon is saying. And we talked about that when we talk about character traits of that character's inside traits. We look at what they say, do, feel, and think. I couldn't remember which one I did say. So those are the things that we're thinking about when we are trying to identify character traits. So again, our I can statement is, I can identify character traits to describe a character. So think about yourself. What character traits do you have? Would someone say that you are kind, hopefully funny, silly, hardworking? That's one that I really a trait that I strive to have, being a hard worker. Are you an adventurous person? Think, people describe you just like we describe characters. You have traits just like the characters in the books. So, yesterday we had the hens, peacock, and hound. So we're going to read the rest of the story today, and we're going to identify the traits and give evidence to why we said that those characters have those traits. There is a little activity that you can do afterwards, and then you would just respond in the Flipgrid video. Totally optional. I kind of it has pictures of the characters from the story, and then it has some different traits. And I'm going to use these cards in our lesson too. But then you're able to do it by yourself if you want afterwards as well. So, okay, we have our characters. So, I'm going to go ahead and open up our book. 3 hens and a peacock. Oh, maybe I should turn it. That way it works a little better. Oh, dropped my card. Hold on. Okay. 3 hens and a peacock. I'm going to go ahead and just read the first 4 pages over again. Things were quiet on the Tuckers' farm. The cows chewed their cud. The hens clucked and pecked and laid their eggs. The old hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening. Once in a while, someone would stop to buy tomatoes or corn or perhaps a quart of milk. Nothing unusual happened here until the peacock showed up. The cows and the hens and the old hound kept right on doing what they'd always done. But that peacock had never lived on a farm. He had no idea what to do. He spread out his fancy feathers and set to shrieking. And shrieking is a loud noise that peacocks make, and it draws attention to them. I am not going to do it for you. I can't do that. Eventually, the peacock wandered down the road. When cars whizzed by, he shook his feather and cried out in his loudest voice. Of course, folks stopped to get for a closer look. Day after day, more folks stopped to admire the peacock, and they all bought tomatoes and corn, eggs and milk. Business on the Tuckers' farm was booming. Everyone seemed happy to have visitors stopping by. So we're going to stop right there. So, what do we know about the peacock so far? What do you know about him? Tell what you think. So, we don't know what the peacock has thought or said or felt yet in the story. They haven't told us any of those things, or he hasn't spoken. But he has had actions. He's done things. So what did he do when he got to the farm? First thing he did was he spread his fancy feathers and he started shrieking, making that loud noise to attract people to look at him. And so then, what happened? He went by the road, and what happened when he went by the road, fluffing his feathers and making his loud shrieking noise? Excuse me. Excuse me. So when he went to the side of the road, he was doing all that stuff. People started to stop and visit the farm, didn't they? Then they started buying all the tomatoes and corn. So he was drawing in attention, right? So how would we describe the peacock after seeing those actions that he's doing? How would you describe him? What are some words you could use? Is he shy? Remember, shy is like you're timid, don't want to talk to anyone, be around anyone. You think peacock is shy? No. So, peacock isn't shy. He likes to shriek, show off his feathers, draw attention of crowds of people around him. I'm thinking, do you know what the word outgoing means? Or bold? So I'm thinking outgoing or bold. And outgoing means that you are not shy at all. And you love being around people and being the center of attention and talking and having everyone look at you. Do you agree that peacock would be outgoing if that's what outgoing means? Yeah, he is definitely outgoing. And bold also means if someone is bold, it means kind of the same thing as outgoing. It means that they are willing to take risks and go out, and they're pretty confident in themselves if they are bold. And also, bold could be a way to describe his looks too. Those bright feathers and all those colors, those also kind of describe his outside traits too. He was bold looking as well as acting. So I am going to add bold. I'm going to add bold or outgoing. I think I like outgoing, sorry. I think I like outgoing better. So by peacock, I'm going to put the character trait for him is outgoing. Because I just really think that matches him more. Sorry. So right now we have his trait, and we're going to put his evidence in there in a little bit. So let's continue reading. I'm going to read another page or two and talk about another character. So we've kind of seen a lot about peacock. Really haven't heard much from Hound or the hens. So everyone seemed happy to have the visitor stopping by. But trouble was brewing in the hen house. The hens were squawking and clucking and flapping their wings. We do all the work around here. I'd like to see that peacock lay one single egg. Exactly. He just struts around screaming. I suppose fancy feathers are more important than laying eggs. That lazy peacock gets all the attention, and we do all the work. Okay, so now we've heard from the peacocks. We saw some of their actions. They told us about the way that they're feeling. So how are we going to describe the hens? What do we know about them so far? So we're going to think about what are they saying and what are they doing. So I want you to think for a second. What did the hens just say? And then what were they doing? So they were complaining, right? They were kind of complaining about the peacock. You could tell that they felt frustrated, and because the peacock was getting all of the attention and they weren't. But they were working very hard too, right? They were laying all those eggs that were going to be sold on the farm. And Peacock's out there, and it just looks like Peacock strutting his feathers all around, or strutting around and fluffing his feathers all around, and they called it screaming. So you could tell they're kind of being negative towards him, a little rude maybe. So let's think. How could we describe them? What would be a trait for the hens? What you think for a second? They're kind of craving attention. They keep talking badly about him. So let's see. Now, this is where I'm going to reference the cards that are in that follow-up activity. There's different traits on these cards, and they're on the slideshow for that follow-up activity. So we have lazy, bold, and that's one we talked about for who? Peacock. So that one would go with peacock, right? Calm. Do the hens seem calm? No, they do not. They do not seem calm. Outgoing, and who did we say was outgoing? Peacock. So that goes with peacock. Jealous. Now this is a good one. We've talked about this when we talked about feelings in morning meeting and other times too. But jealous. What does jealous mean? So jealous is a feeling when, if you feel jealous of someone, you kind of wish you were them or in their shoes. So the hens are jealous of the peacock because what? Because the peacock just gets to fluff his feathers and stand by the side of the street while they are doing their hard work laying eggs. So would you agree that jealous is a trait of the hens? Yeah, I would. I would definitely think that. And then the last one we have is rude. Do you think the hens are being a little rude to the peacock? Didn't you notice that in that last page, Peacock was listening? Do you see that in the picture? See, Peacock hears them. They're talking that loudly. Wouldn't that kind of make them a little rude? Right. So we have rude or jealous. So we're going to pick one trait that shows us that. I'm thinking jealous. I'm going to pick jealous because they were jealous, they were being rude. So I think this is the main trait that they were having, and that caused them to be rude. So I'm going to write jealous by the hens. And we still have the hound and have to add our evidence. But we're not done with the story yet. So the peacock had heard every word. For days he moped about, moaning and groaning. I wish I could be more useful around here. Humph, clucked one hen. The other hens ruffled their feathers. The hound stretched and slowly raised his head. Why not let the peacock stay here to be useful, while you hens take the glamorous job down by the road. Doesn't that seem fair? They switch? I think that's a good idea. They can switch jobs for the day. The three hens began clucking to one another. What a wonderful plan! Yes, it's a fabulous idea. Oh, ladies, we simply must fancy up our feathers tonight and nothing but our brightest beads, bangles, and bows. We'll stop traffic for sure. Well, you girls know I can strut with the best of them. The peacock perked up. Let's do it, he declared. Tomorrow I'll stay here and sit on a nest and cluck. And we'll get all gussied up, and said the hens. We'll be so glamorous. Now, do you think this idea is going to work? If you saw a bunch of just hens on the side of the road, would that make you have to pull over and see them? And do you think the peacock can lay eggs like the chickens? Have you ever eaten a peacock egg? I wonder how this is going to turn out. At sunrise the next morning, the hens strutted down the road. Oh, look how beautiful they are. The peacock marched right into the hen house and poked his head inside. So they're going to do their jobs. The hens flocked by the road waiting for a car. When they saw one approaching, they clucked and squawked and flapped their wings in a flurry of feathers, but every car whizzed right by. The peacock sucked in his tummy and wiggled from left to right, trying to squeeze through the tiny hen house door. His front half was in, his back half was out. He can't even fit, he's too big. Down by the road, those hens tried every chicken trick they knew. Still, no car stopped. Finally, the peacock made it into the hen house. He held his breath and pushed with all his might. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not lay a single egg. Not one. The old hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening. What's that peacock doing in the hen house? Asked Farmer Tucker. Who knows, said Mrs. Tucker. And what are those hens doing down by the road? Not a one of them is up here laying their eggs. Well, the way things are going, we aren't likely to have anyone buying eggs today, said Farmer Tucker. We need that peacock down there stopping cars. So are they able to do the other one's job? When the peacock heard that, he smiled the biggest smile you ever saw on a bird's beak. I am helping, he thought. He squirmed back and forth until he popped out of the cramped hen house. Then he trotted off to find the hens. The exhausted hens were all clucked out. Every feather was out of place. What a day. We couldn't get one car to stop. It's true, when most of them didn't even slow down. The peacock met the hens as they trudged up the road. I could tell you I'm no good at laying eggs, he said, and I'm just not meant for it. One hen nodded. I'll put on my stellar strut, and I couldn't even get a single car to stop. I have to hand it to you, Fancy Feathers. Your job is harder than it looks. The other hens agreed. The peacock looked relieved. So the hens marched back down to the hen house. The peacock strutted down to the road. The old hound stretched out on the porch, watching and listening. And things were quiet again on the Tuckers' farm. The end. So, what did they learn in the story? Just because someone's job looks easier or their life looks easier, does that always mean that it is? No. What we're doing is usually what we're meant to be doing. Those hens were meant to lay eggs, so that's why they were. The peacock is beautiful and bright and is an attraction for all to see. That's why his job was to be by the side of the road, to attract people. So that's kind of like the lesson in this story. But back to the character traits. So we need to also add in evidence. So the hens were jealous. How do we know the hens were jealous? Because they were talking about how they could do it and his job isn't so hard, right? Then we talked about the peacock was outgoing, and he was outgoing because what? What was the evidence in the book? He was out by the street, had crowds of people all around him, and loved attracting people and screaming and flapping his feathers for everyone, right? So that was evidence in the text that told us that. And then I'm going to leave the hound left for you because we're kind of running over time, so I'll have to take some time from another lesson. But if you are able to, an optional thing is for you to do that PowerPoint where you match the traits to the characters. So you can respond in a Flipgrid. Tell me what traits the hound has and tell me the evidence. How do you know the hound has that trait or is that way? What in the story told you that? So if you would like, an optional extension is to answer those questions, and you can click on the PowerPoint in the lesson plan and it will bring you to that, and it has the pictures of the characters and it has these 6 traits in there. So you got to match 2 to each character. Okay? All right. Bye.